Welcome back to another episode of the On the Pegs podcast. I'm Steph Vetterly, and in this episode, we take a turn to the hard enduro world, where I got a chance to sit down with Chris Davis. Chris has been involved in the dirt bike world for a long time, both from riding and racing, and he owns two motorcycle-related businesses, C. Davis MX Mechanics and Hocking Hills Bike Rentals. For 2026, Chris established the first ever hard enduro state championship series. So after round 3 of the series, I had a chance to sit down with Chris to talk about how all of this got started. We talked about course design, the work that goes into race day, the state of the hard enduro discipline as a whole, and where the Ohio State Championship Series fits into the bigger picture. So let's get into it. Thank you, Chris, for sitting here today with us for the next episode of On the Pegs podcast. So for those of our listeners who don't know who you are, walk me through your background of how you got into motorcycle racing and kind of your origin story.
Background would be, I was 3 years old, watching my big brother, who's 16 years older than me, be pretty much the top guy in the district. And I just wanted to be just like him. And I was a pretty big daredevil when I was a kid, and not with skill, just didn't have any fear of the consequences. And so whenever I said I wanted to race, my dad said absolutely not, because he said, you kill yourself. So my big brother did what any big brother would do, and he bought me a dirt bike out of his own money he had and stored it at his friend's house and started taking me to races because he was my babysitter too. So started racing motocross. I raced motocross all the way till 2011. Pretty hardcore too. And lost my ankle in 2011 from a pretty bad crash. Took 2 years off. My wife said, no more motocross. And I said, well, I'm still riding, so I had to figure something else out to do. So I started racing some hare scrambles, which I had never done before. I never rode dirt bike in the woods. I was a track guy only. Raced a hare scramble series in North Carolina, fell in love with it, got really good at it. Continued to do that for several years, moved to Ohio, met a whole bunch of dirt bikers here in Ohio. A lot of them just rode. So we started riding single track, and it just got to kind of pushing, hey, I wanted to hit this, I want to hit that. I like the gnarly stuff, just seeing what I could and couldn't do, and did that for several years. And then everybody said, man, you ought to try to do hard enduro. I never even heard of hard enduro. And I think my very first one was Battle of the Goats, however many years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And ended up being fairly decent at hard enduro as well. Was able to race A class for a while, and then moved to I didn't go to 30A, I just stayed in A until I turned 40. And then once I turned 40, I pulled the old man card and moved up to 40A class. And little did I know that those dudes are still fast as crap too. So on we went.
You've been doing hard enduro for a while, and I remember seeing you at the U.S. Hard Enduro rounds. What made you go from riding hard enduro to wanting to start your own championship series? Like, what was the moment where you thought that was the next step for you? Because that's a pretty big step. That's not like going from a rider to owner of a race series is kind of a big jump.
Yeah, I own 2 other businesses. I own C. Davis MX Mechanics and Hocking Hills Bike Rentals. And I got to know Matt Musgrove, owner of US Hard Enduro, pretty well. And, we became pretty good friends. And I think he's seen kind of I don't know if you call it my humbleness or my passion for the sport. Not only the sport, but just I will give my shirt off my back to somebody to help them out. And I helped build tracks for quite a while for Hare Scramble series, and in the back of my head, I did really think, like, because, you know, I can only make suggestions when I'm helping a series. And in the back of my head, I would think, man, if I had my own, I could do it the way I wanted to. So that was just really, really, really far back. And then 2 years ago, Matt Musgrove kind of just nonchalantly mentioned to me that he's trying to get some state to do a state championship. I didn't know that they didn't have one. And he was like, yeah, I just would love to have it, just help the sport grow. And it's kind of just a conversation. And the next race I see him, kind of said it again. And the next race I see him, and he kind of said it again. So like I said, 2 years. And then I kind of asked him a little bit in further questioning, like, what do you mean? Or what would I have to do? Or I told him, I said, I can build a race course and I can manage people. I just don't have any idea what it takes to start a series. No clue. I heard all the rumors with the insurance being hard to get, and you know, I was definitely not even going to think about doing it if I wasn't able to get AMA insurance, because if you do third-party insurance, it's much more, and I don't think your coverage is as solid. So I think that we were at TKO this past year, and Logan from the AMA, you know, was looking for me. So Mikey said, hey, Logan's looking for you. So I just hung out, and Logan came over and introduced himself to me, and I guess that he had been talking to Matt about it too. So they thought that I was doing it, and I'm just like, you know, thinking about it. And then, so I guess I just said, you know, will I have insurance? And you guys got my back if I do this? And obviously a bunch of questions via email and text and all that. And then I finally asked my wife if she was okay with doing it, because she does a lot, you know, like she's the accountant, she's the anything that has to do with computers or paper or money, that's her deal. You know, I manage the people and make sure the course and the event happens the way if I was a racer, would like to see it happen. So we did it. And honestly, it hasn't been hard, you know, like methodically. It's just very hard physically, especially when, you know, you're starting from scratch. You don't have the funds to just, you know, pay people to do all the things that need done. Being a brand new, one of its first of its kind championship with sponsors in this genre of racing, you know, the big sponsors are already pretty committed with the big series. So asking them for sponsorship they're already putting out a bunch of money. Thankfully, I did get some pretty good sponsors: Bulletproof Designs, IRC. My premier sponsor is Lancaster Sports Cycles, right out of Carroll, Ohio. That's who I've been going to for 10 years. So I got a little bit of sponsorship money to help me get it going. But that was used up before the first race, pretty much. So yeah, now it's just it's hard work, and I just believe that if I put enough work in, that eventually the series will start having enough racers that I can grow it.
And the nice thing is, like you mentioned earlier, you've started a couple businesses already, so you know that right out of the gate, you know, you're not going to be uber successful, like have thousands of racers showing up at a brand new, like you said, one of a kind, you know, state championship. You know you're going to have to put in the work. So I think that mindset is really helpful for like, you already know what it's going to take to make this thing really big. It's just putting in the time and the effort and just consistency over and over again. And the really cool thing, I mean, the first race we had of this series, you had so many racers turn out for the first race ever. How did that first race go as far as what you envisioned it was going to be versus how it actually turned out? Like, did it work out exactly how you pictured?
For the most part, I think it went great. Couple sections broke down that I had no clue that were going to do it, and I was honestly a little bit embarrassed of how they broke down, because had I thought that it would have been a half of what it turned into, I would have never put it in the course. Underground springs are, crazy. Can't predict them. But for the way the course developed, I was upset about that. When they told me that they're stuck in a mud pit, I'm thinking to myself, what mud? There's no mud out here.
Yeah, and we've had really good weather. All 3 rounds we've had this year have been really good weather. No, I mean, knock on wood, no rain, no deluge. I mean, it's been hot this weekend. At round 3, it's been a little warm, but we've been very lucky.
Yeah, but other than that, as far as how my crew, my course officials, and everything worked out, I mean, the other cool thing about this series is that my crew, I'm personal friends with all of them. So we know each other. I know that whenever I ask them to do something, that I know exactly how it's going to get done, because I know them. So it's not like I'm paying people that can just ride a bike and do this. It's I'm personal friends with them. And, when those sections broke down, it got changed as fast as it could have possibly got changed. It got changed so fast that riders were complimenting it. Even though they were 2 foot in a mud hole, it was great. As far as the starting on time, getting the course swept, making a course that's hard but not going to hurt people. We only had 1 injury. There's a section out there named after it, Jose's Achilles. He blew his Achilles out. Didn't even fall. He just stepped backwards hard and it snapped. How many people showed up, I was absolutely ecstatic about. The feedback that I got from the race, I was very, very, very pleased with. I didn't get any negative feedback at all, and I'm not lying about that. I was happy. I mean, if I had that number show up at every race, I'd be happy. So and it was a big learning experience. Now I know I have a checklist that I wrote down when I got home, and just memorized it. These are the little things that I need to make sure are taken care of prior to or before, just to make it go a little bit more seamless. And we did better on round 2. And I think today I don't think it could have gone better, really.
That's the thing I wanted to get into, especially, was course design, because every round I've seen, I mean, I've been doing hard enduros off and on since 22, 23-ish. And you have some that are awesome and epic, and some of those are established courses, established tracks. They have a legacy. And then you have others that are newer, but it's kind of hit or miss at times on the success of the course. But so far, each of these rounds, people have been really, really happy and really excited. Even, it's hard enduro, so of course they're going to struggle. Each round that I've talked to people, or I've seen, interviews like Judy's done, everybody's been super, super excited about how the course is ridden. One, I really hope that momentum continues, because that's going to keep riders coming back. But is it something you specifically look for when you come to a venue? How do you keep that consistency from race to race?
Yeah, I went and I had a lot of clubs that host motorcycle racing events. As soon as they found out that I started the series, they called me and they said, "Hey, Chris, we'd love to have one of your races out at my place." So I'd go out there. again, I'm kind of friends with pretty much everybody in Ohio that rides and does all that. So that's another cool thing that I guess my, me as a rider or a dirt bike enthusiast name is all over Ohio already because of the shop or my racing or the rental company or whatever. So all these clubs and everything are calling me and asking me to have one of my races out there. And so I'd go out and I'd check it out. And really all of them that called me and asked me to go out, and I went, I went and I looked at the whole property, and I just told them, I was like, man, I'm really sorry, but it doesn't have what it takes to put on the race that I want to have. And they were just like, well, there's these hills over here and this creek here, but you can't connect it all. You have to be able to connect it all. So what I look for whenever I go to a property and say, I really think I could put on a really cool course here, is I look at the dirt. Is it just feet of topsoil and then clay, or is it a little bit of topsoil and then clay? How much rock is mixed into it? You almost have to have big, long drainage ravines with rock in them to have a good race. Another thing is the foliage of the forest. In Ohio, it's really hard to get what I'd really love, just because if it's been clear cut, then you're going to have a ton of just weeds and everything growing up, and that makes it really hard to build a course because you're cutting the entire way. Elevation change, to an extent, you don't need super big mountains to make a hard hill climb. You just need the right steepness of the mountain. So, Hocking Hills area, they're not mountains, but they're very, very, very big hills. Lots of rock features. Some places have bigger rocks. Some places have pebbles. The biggest thing is if I have a 500-acre property, if I really wanted to, with 500 acres, I could probably put 30 miles in. But it's just, again, like I look at the topo. Onyx is really, really awesome. So you can turn it into 3D, and I can see the high points. I can see the valleys. So I already know how many valleys there are. And then what I do personally before I go out and even start laying the course out is I get on Onyx, I turn it into 3D mode, and then I just literally use the Tools app and I do a line distance thing, and I just draw where I would like to go to maximize the use of the property. I have no idea what's there. I just literally try to maximize the acreage. And then I go there and I follow my line and see what I run into. And then I adjust accordingly. And that's the very first thing that happens whenever I go out, because we try to just explore a 500-acre property, take quite a while. So basically I design a course and then make it actually possible when I get on the ground.
And go see it in real life.
Yeah.
So so you do a first pass. How do you break down what constitutes a feature for the amateurs versus a feature for the pro and A? Obviously, like, the super big hits aren't going to be in the amateur, but how do you figure out that fine line? Like, does it come from your own personal riding experience, or? Yeah,
I think with how I put it in is, I'm not the pro A skill anymore. Fresh, not tired, I can clear most pro sections. But you add the whole race up to it, I'll be defeated. So I have the technical skill, and I'm very good at hard. You got to hit them with a lot of intent. I think that complements my motocross background, but I can hit most gnarly things that I would say any lower or medium level pro can. So, and then if for building the amateur course, if I don't think that I could do it with if it would take me more than just a little bit of struggle, then it's probably too hard for them. So I just kind of base it off of that. You can ride over something 10 times and it hold up. But when you have 120 bikes ride over it 3 times, you have to be able to tell like what's going to happen. Is it going to turn into not rideable? So things like that, just looking and the forest has been out there forever, so you can already tell where erosion happens and where it doesn't. If it hasn't eroded, then and you can tell, just kick the dirt. If it's already clay, it's probably going to hold up okay. My course officials are very, very knowledgeable as well. Jeff Husted, has been contracted to build fallen timbers for several years, and he is older than I am, wiser than I am, as good of a rider as I am. So when me and him go out together, we really bounce ideas off of each other, and it works. He considers me a better rider. I consider him a better rider. I think he's more knowledgeable. It's just really cool because we literally don't argue about it. We just talk about it. Hey, what do you think? Well, I think this. And hey, look, what about this? And it's not a power thing. We're just 2 dudes that love dirt biking out in the woods, trying to make the best course that we can. And we want the riders to be able to ride it. I'm not building these courses to try to stick it to them. I want them all to finish a lap. And so far it's worked pretty good.
Now, when it comes to mileage, I mean, some of the races have been a little bit shorter, but we've had more laps, but a shorter length course. Examples like today, we had 2 laps and anywhere between roughly 13 for the amateurs and 15 miles for the pros, give or take a little bit. Does the length of the course depend on what the venue looks like and how easy it is to route the course back to the finish line? Or do you have an idea of a rough number of miles that you want the riders to be challenged?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the venue, the size of it. Like round 1, I managed to put 6 miles into 100 acres, which is insane. Would have loved to be able to put a longer course in there. Maybe 8 or 9 with that terrain would have been enough. Out here, when you listen to the interviews, everybody was super happy with it, but in the end, the pros don't really like the fast, flowy single track for too long. They want the hard stuff because that's how they're going to get better. But they're very happy with the flowy single track if you add technicality into it. So I take it, I listen to it. But at the end of the day, when you take all of the racers and you put it into an average of how many people got their butts kicked, but yet still told me you build amazing courses. Like I had a guy tell me today, he's like, you build the best A courses. They're hard, but they are the best. They are the funnest. And I didn't even strike a conversation with them. So that's the kind of feedback that I'm getting. So when I get that feedback that I didn't ask for, I take that a little higher than when I go to a pro and I say, hey, what'd you think? Because they're going to say what they want their sponsors to hear, and they're going to say what they want their friends to hear and everything. But when you look into their eyes when they're on the racetrack, it was hard enough.
Today especially. Kicked a lot of racers' butts.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is the big question that I'm always curious about because I have limited experience setting an event up. My boyfriend and I did a local trials round here in Ohio and had at times a couple people helping. At times it was just he and I cutting the course every single time. So I understand a little bit about what goes into setting a course with the prospect of having rain, because especially in Ohio, any little bit of rain turns this dirt to absolute slick mud, and just, you can literally stop a race with one rainstorm and your racers won't get anywhere. So I know that the big conversation piece over the years has always been trying to set a course that works for both a dry weekend and also a rainy weekend. How do you walk that fine line, and what factors do you think of when you're setting a race?
Well, like I was just talking about me and Jeff, Jeff seems to like have I think he sleeps with a Matic pick, and I've become quite good friends with a Matic pick. And the reason I'm saying that is because we do just that. I watch the weather very, very intensely. Like I'm a weather guy. I know you can't really trust the weather man, but if it would have said that there was a 50% chance of rain once, then what we do is we go out and we put benches in. I mean, we literally put hours of Matic picking side hills in and building little highways out there for people so they can do it. We did a couple spots out here, just a couple. At the last round, we did like 2,000 feet. So that's what the riders, I mean, they do see it once. They might not, the good riders that are actually looking at the trail and they see like, wow, they cut this whole thing in. We did that so they could ride it. So I knew that the weather was going to hold up out here. So that's the other, how much side hill are you going to put into it? And we always build, like barricades and stuff that that the dirt's going to fall down to this spot. So we'll put stuff out there so it catches it. And eventually a line pops up. And then it's, as the race goes on, it actually gets easier. All that is thought out. I think we plan way ahead.
So we're 3 races in. What are some of the biggest things you've learned that you didn't even think of at the beginning? You didn't even see coming. What are some of the biggest life lessons when it comes to this series that you've learned and applied to like this race, or apply to races later on in this series?
Probably the very, very, very number one piece would be, I'm a do-it-yourselfer kind of guy. Like, if you want something done, do it yourself. And I have to step back a little bit and let my course officials and all of my course workers do what I ask them to help me do. And then that way I can be around to make because all day everybody's asking me, what do we do? Or what about this? And how long? And if I'm just out there doing it, then I'm not there to ask those questions that, So first and foremost is I have to step back, let go of the torch a little bit, and let my crew do what they know how to do. Probably second would be, I would say that like I need to write stuff down. Really, I need to write stuff down because I thought that I could remember everything, and I can't. Come to find out. So I have to write stuff down so I don't miss anything. The whole planning, as far, you have to sanction it. You got to pay for the insurance. You got to schedule the porta-johns. You got to schedule the food trucks. You got to get an ambulance. You got to get the radios. You got to get, and even after the race is over, all of the tear down, all of the documents that you got to turn in to the AMA, and it's just so much more than just the race itself. So stepping back a little bit, letting my workers work the race and me just manage, and then write all that stuff down. I mean, if it's your passion, it's really not work. So I'm just kind of out here, like everybody tells me, living the dream, I guess.
Even though we're sweating our butts off and exhausted after a day's race.
Very, very tired. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I am putting in all of my effort to make this series happen. And if you ask my wife, she will tell you, because her friends don't think that she's married, because I'm never there. I'm here. I come out weeks in advance by myself, or with Young, my lead course official, or with Jeff. And I'm here, and I'm here because that's the only way this is actually going to get done and get done right, is what I feel. And she supports me on that. So love her to death, but I'm putting my all into it. And it's just because I love this sport. And yeah, hopefully it turns into something big, not for money, not for fame, but because there's just something cool when all those bikes start up on the line and all the smoke starts rolling and everybody's just amped, and then you see them out there in the woods just ready to die. But whenever you look at them, they lean their head on the handlebars, they smile, and they give you a thumbs up because they love it, So.
And I think, like, when I first started to come in these, I saw it just as an event, just coming as a spectator, coming to take a couple photos just for fun. But until you're behind the scenes, until you're helping cut trail or work the event, scoring's absolutely a thankless job. You're out there a long time, cutting trail, you're out there a long time. It's, again, a very thankless job, because I think on some level, spectators and racers understand that there's a lot of work that goes into this, but until you're actually participating in that work that goes into setting an event up and setting a successful event that doesn't have any major hiccups, nobody realizes quite how much work goes into it. So like you said, barely being home because you're putting so many hours into this, unless you're living that life, you don't realize how many hours actually go into doing this.
Yeah. I'm 100% for a fact that, and I mean, Jeff's sitting right over here, John's sitting right over there. I am way, way more tired after running a race than I am after racing a 5-hour hard enduro. Way more tired. And I know that I've seen it, I have John running chase cam for a lot of the pro and A guys. And by the end of the day, John's like, I can't even stand up, dude. And, Jeff and Young swept the whole Pro A course today. And it was like, they were radioing me and they're like, this is so cool, and then they get back here and they can barely get off their bike. It's definitely more, you get more seat time than you probably want doing this.
So I don't think that aspect of how much work goes into setting a race is ever really going to change. Like, every venue's different, conditions are different, the same amount of work has to go into it. But having started companies and built successful companies, there are milestones that you hit along the way. What milestones has this series already surpassed or already accomplished, and which ones are you working on?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's already a success. You almost always, when you start a business, you almost never start in the green. And you probably don't ever get in the green for a couple years. We're in the green. We've been in the green. And, I mean, barely, but we are, and that's a success. What I really want to see is I want to see bigger numbers so I can give these racers more winnings. Like, that's why people race. Like, they, at the end, they love riding dirt bikes, whatever, but everybody races because they want to win trophies. They want to, you're racing for a prize. I want to give them a prize. So I would love for it to grow like that so I can start giving back to the community more. It's not going in my pocket, it's going back to them. So that's what I would really like to do. I would just love to be able to just have tremendous podiums, tremendous payouts, tremendous giveaways. I would love to get it big enough to where people dedicate their whole Friday, Saturday, Sunday to this event instead of just coming to race and then go home. And if it gets big enough I can make it cool enough and worth spending the whole weekend out here and just tying all of these friends and families together. That would be probably my end goal.
Do you foresee having a 2-day race, or are you sticking with just the 1 day, which, not complaining, I'm all for a 1-day race. Do you like that format, or do you see it expanding into, a full day on Saturday for like the amateurs and a full day on Sunday for the pros? Or is that still kind of up in the air?
No, it's happening next season. If I can finish this season off and be somewhere around the floating equal line, then next season my goal, I already have talked about it. I'm going to make a Saturday, Sunday event, 2 different locations, 2 completely separate races. That way it cuts everybody's travel time. Instead of traveling, if they're driving 8 hours one way for 2 races, that's 36 hours. So if I can have 2 races in one weekend, that saves them a ton of money in travel expenses. Travel expenses cost more than registering for the race and replacing parts on your bike. It really does. So yes, next year, if everything goes right, I'm going to have a Saturday race at one location, pack up, drive about 12 minutes down the road, and have a Sunday race.
Not where I thought that was going to go, but that's definitely going to be an interesting situation. Okay, so now I need to learn 2 courses in a very short amount of time.
Correct.
Cool. Okay, thanks for the heads up. That'll be good to know for next year. So you're doing this series. You're still racing the U.S. Hard Enduro. I mean, I saw you competing at Battle of the Goats, so you're still active in other series. Where do you see the state of Hard Enduro from your perspective, just as a discipline as a whole? And how do you feel that your series fits into the wider discipline? Because the cool thing about what I've seen so far in the 3 races we've had is you have people who may, for one reason or another, feel like the U.S. Hard Enduro Series or the National Hard Enduro Series now has such a prestige, and maybe it might be a little bit too difficult as their first race or their first couple races, but they see something as a regional series a little bit less daunting. So it seems like we have had a lot of people who it's their first ever race, or people who really may not want to travel the whole way down to North Carolina for Battle of the Goats, but hey, Ohio's just in my backyard, let's go check it out. And it's been really cool to see some new faces come in and try out Hard Enduro. What's your view of Hard Enduro, and how does Ohio Series fit into that?
There's probably a whole lot of different ways I could answer that question, but as you were asking me the question, I was just thinking, and I'm I say it how I see it kind of guy, and I've raced almost every discipline of dirt biking that there is, minus flat tracking or ice racing. I've done pretty much all of the others, and I was pretty good at them all. And I've been I've lived in a whole lot of different states, and very, very few times that I can remember was I ever at a track or a hare scramble or a GP or any race that the person that was the owner of the series or of any higher position in the series, I don't remember me looking at them and be like, they're a dirt biker, And if you and I'm not talking any down at all, but when you look at the now national series, Matt, I don't ever see Matt I don't look at Matt and look at him like he's a dirt biker. I know he can ride dirt bikes for sure. It's just, that's not what I see when I look at him. When somebody looks at me, I 100% guaranteed they know that the only thing I do is ride dirt bikes. And I really do firmly believe that goes a long way with how people see this. I'm a dirt biker building stuff for dirt bikers, and it's really cool. I got over 100 people showing up on average, and I think I've ridden with probably 85% of them. So it's, I think that it's a trust thing a little bit from the people coming in and doing it. I think that Ohio is amazing. I just heard on the radio that it's like number 3 or something in the nation for the number of motorcyclists. Just heard that on the radio yesterday or the day before. And I mean, so there is a lot of motorcycle racers in the state of Ohio. And then the surrounding states, which are not a very far drive, they're all looking for places to race as well. I think that was one of the first things you were telling me, like, yeah, man, it's just, we want a place to race.
Yeah, usually I have to drive more than 4 hours for anything I've ever gone to. There's Wildwood's pretty close, Lightning's pretty close. Well, I take that back. Wildwood's still about 4 hours. Lightning, I think, is closer to like a 2-hour mark. But I have nothing where I'm at in Pennsylvania. And so, like, when you and I got hooked up, I'm like, yeah, this is like a 2-hour drive for me. And I can help cover the race, and then I can drive home. It's such a weird experience for me to be able to just drive home and not have to stop 15 KOAs on the way home.
I think that it is in a perfect location, and I know of several more pieces of property that when I have a little bit of leverage in my pocket, I'm going to get those pieces of properties, and then the courses are just going to get better and better and better.
Well, that's the cool thing too. Like, of all the places that I've gone to for races, Ohio has the terrain for this kind of stuff. Every time I turn around, even if it's just, a trials event, or I've been to a couple of the national enduros here in Ohio, there's such cool terrain, and it's so good for hard enduro, and it's so good for trials, because there's a lot of crossover between the two disciplines and what they need. And I'm really surprised it took this long for a regional series here in Ohio to start up with how awesome this terrain is.
The biggest factor is that there's just so much racing going on. I mean, any single weekend in Ohio, you can go race somewhere. There is a race somewhere, whether it's a hare scramble, a GP, an enduro, a US sprint, a GNCC. You can go racing somewhere in Ohio any weekend. So being able to attract a large number of riders is hard because there's just so much other racing going on. When I started the series, I said I'm going to schedule around 3 series. National U.S. Hard Enduro I scheduled around the local JXC Hare Scramble series because they're getting 400 and 500 racers turning out. And then I scheduled against the ACES, that's the Appalachian Championship Enduro Series, because that's Enduro and it's hard. And that's, Nick Farringer raced here today and he's going and racing there tomorrow.
It's just so crazy. You come and race a 3-hour hard enduro and then turn around and race another enduro the next day.
100 miles. Yeah. So very hard to schedule around all that stuff. So I'm not upset when I don't get huge numbers just because I know that there's other racing going on and I know how many series registrants I have. So one day, whenever all the stars align and everybody's free and they can come race, we're going to have a whammy of a race day and it's going to be fun.
If people who are listening to this podcast really want to help support, what are some of the best ways that they can help you support this series?
I would say just spread the word, just, hey, have you heard about this Hard Enduro series? Hey, it's Hard Enduro, but it's not a showstopper. You can be a B-level hare scrambler and come out here, and if you're a good technical rider, you're going to be able to do well. I mean, just today, if you were a hare scrambler and you came out here and raced this course today, what you lost in the technical sections, you were going to gain in the single track for sure. It's kind of a fine line. It's almost like 50-50. Obviously, social media, I think, is the number one way to get it out. So, sharing pictures, sharing videos, sharing comments, or just start talking about it. And I always tell people, if you have a question, message me. I'm not, I always looked at it like any owner of anything. It's kind of like, they're unreachable. I'm not unreachable. You can message me just like if my buddy was going to message me later, and I'll respond to you, So we're all friends. We're all doing this for the same reason, just so we can keep riding. So let's talk about it, spread the word. If you got any like critiques and things that you'd want me to improve on, or requests that maybe I didn't think about that would be kind of cool to have, amenities or whatever, feel free. Just, let me know.
And I'm sure if they'd like to help volunteer and help cut in trail and come help score.
Always. I will, yes. You will be, your gas will be paid for, you'll get lunch, water, and you'll get to ride some cool stuff.
Very cool. So I'll link the website and all the social medias in the show notes for everybody. Ohio Hard Enduro everywhere. I think that's a great place to end it. Do you have any closing thoughts, anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to make sure to mention?
No, I just wanted to say thanks to you for doing this. Say thanks to all my sponsors, Lancaster Sport Cycles, IRC, Bulletproof, Whamco, Trail Wrench, you got Sunbelt Rentals, you got Rocky Mountain ATV, my shops. Just thanks for contributing to just something that might turn into something.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for sitting with me and a lovely 50-minute conversation about Ohio Hard Enduro.
Absolutely.
That's it for today's episode with Chris Davis. A big thanks to Chris for sitting down with me after a long race day and sharing the story behind the Ohio Hard Enduro Championship Series. It's always interesting to hear what goes into building a race series from scratch, especially one that's already creating more opportunities for hard enduro riders in Ohio and the surrounding area. You can find show notes for this episode over on the On the Pegs website, including links to Ohio Hard Enduro's website and their social media pages. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and feel free to leave a comment on who you'd like us to talk to next. And as always, thank you for listening to the On the Pegs podcast.